Good Tuesday morning to each of you. I hope you are doing well on this Tuesday morning or whenever you are able to join me. So this morning I am going to share with you a story. We're all familiar with this story, but I absolutely love the beautiful way that this person interprets this story. So it's a story from Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 3 and 11 through 32. And it's the story of the prodigal son. So many of us are familiar with that story. There are two sons. The one son decides to take his inheritance and leaves home, spends it frivolously, wastes the money, and then decides to come back home and beg for a job from his father. Well, his father celebrates, slaughters the calf, and creates a huge celebration for this son. And the older son, who has remained faithful to the father and who has worked hard and who has stayed by his father's side, gets very hurt by this and very upset. And it's a difficult story. It's an interesting story to try to process. But Reverend Ashley DeTar-Burt shares this. Everyone has something that challenges them, pushes them in a way that is ultimately good for them, but perhaps they weren't quite ready for it. These things often help us grow as people and teach us important lessons, even if we struggle with them. For some people, it's a person, maybe a teacher or a classmate or a coach. For others, it's an experience, maybe a book that brought about new ideas, or a trip that didn't go as planned, or an assignment with an unexpected level of difficulty. For a very long time, my challenge was the prodigal son. I don't think I'm the only person who has ever struggled with this parable. No matter where we see ourselves in this story, as the younger son, or the older son, or even as the father, it can be challenging to sympathize with everyone. Why would the younger son take so much, half of his estate, from his father and waste it? Why wouldn't the older son celebrate the fact that his brother was back? Why wouldn't the father, or anyone for that matter, bother to tell the older son what was going on? Trying to make sense of these characters was hard for me. But what I eventually came to realize is that every single one of them, regardless of what they've done, receives grace. Both sons, one wasteful and one frustrated, receive the grace of their father. And even the father experiences grace in his interactions with his sons. No one earns it, but rather it is something they experience together. Once I understood this, I began to feel the grace this parable extends in my own life. There's no limit to the grace we can experience with God, because God puts no limits on His grace. Our lives can be big, full, messy, complicated, imperfect, a complete wreck. And God's grace will still be there. This story was the best way, because like I said, I've always thought that the prodigal son was a difficult one to explain, especially when we're discussing it in youth group. It's really challenging. This is such a beautiful display and explanation. And I frequently find myself, every year, when we are doing confirmation, we discuss prevenient grace. And I discuss with the youth that this is a grace that you don't earn. And oftentimes we don't even really deserve it. But it's God's grace that never ends. God's grace that is given to us. And this is such a beautiful way of explaining both, using one to explain the other, actually. And it's a difficult concept to grasp, I think, even as an adult. because we oftentimes get the impression that we may not deserve it, or we may have messed up too bad, or too big, or we didn't pray enough, or we didn't make enough time for this, or we missed church Sunday. Yes, we want to see you here on Sunday. Yes, we want to hear your thoughts, and we want to know what is going on with you. But that doesn't mean that God doesn't love you, and that doesn't mean that God doesn't have grace for you. So my prayer is this week, as you go out into your week, is that you will go forth, you will experience God's grace in all of the people in your life, and know that that grace comes without limits, without boundaries, and simply is yours to accept. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you back next Tuesday.